Exodus 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who entered Egypt, each man with his household. Entered with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. All the people who were directly descended from Jacob numbered 70. But Joseph was already in Egypt, and in time Joseph and his brothers and all the generations died. The Israelites, however, were fruitful, increased greatly, multiplied, and became extremely strong, so that the land was filled with them. Then a new king who did not know about Joseph came to power over Egypt. He said to his people, "Look at the Israelite people, more numerous and stronger than we are. Come, let's deal wisely with them. Otherwise, they will continue to multiply, and if if a war breaks out, they will ally themselves with our enemies and fight against us and leave the country." So they put foremen over the Israelites to oppress them with hard labor. As a result, they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more they multiplied and spread. As a result, the Egyptians loathed the Israelites, and they made the Israelites serve rigorously. They made their lives bitter by hard service with mortar and bricks, and by all kinds of service in the fields. Every kind of service the Israelites were required to give was rigorous. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah and the other Puah, "When you assist the Hebrew women in childbirth, observe at the delivery. If if it is a son, kill him, and if if it is a daughter, she may live." But the midwives feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this and let the boys live?" The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women, for the Hebrew women are vigorous. They give birth before the midwives get to them." So God treated the midwives well, and the people multiplied and became very strong. And because the midwives feared God, he made households for them. Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, "All the sons that are born you must throw into the rivers, but all the daughters you may let live." So notice the command is to all his people there, which is interesting. Hey, Belser! Hey, yo! Welcome in. So this is why I was saying there's a gap here. And we just suddenly, over time, things change. So we start out with a little bit of genealogy, not a full genealogy. Just remember the descendants are, and they numbered 70. Let me see what the footnote says here. Genesis 46 describes in more details Jacob's coming in Egypt and his family. The Greek of Exodus 1:5 and the Genesis 46 and two Qumran manuscripts have the number at 75. So here it has 70. Others have 75. So there's a little discrepancy there, but I don't think that's significant in any way. It has picking up where now the brothers are dead. So we left Genesis with Joseph dying. Now all the brothers are dead. We're recapping who came in, how many there were, and that they become fruitful and multiply, and they are increasing greatly and becoming strong and filled. And like I said, at this point, why don't they decide to leave? What is it that they're like, no, we are just going to stay in Egypt and stay here? So that's my curiosity. Why do they not have a plan of, in a generation, why didn't Joseph give any commands to say, hey, not only take my bones when you leave, you need to leave soon? I mean, we assume the way it plays out, he's in charge and he lives a long life, that yes, he's well past the famine when he dies, and so why doesn't he say, now that I'm dead, all of you should leave? Why isn't that the command? I don't know. Maybe other people don't think that way, but that's one of those curious things that I think about. So anyway, now a king who did not know Joseph came to power over Egypt. There is an intentionality of not ever naming the new king. It would be difficult to identify who this new king might be, since the chronology of ancient Israel and Egypt is continually debated. Scholars who take a number of numbers in the Bible more or less at face value would place the time of Jacob to Egypt as about 1876 BC. That would put Joseph's experience in the period with the Hyksos control in the 1720s to 70s. And everything in the narrative about Joseph's point to the native Egyptian setting and not a Hyksos one. Joseph's death then would be around 1806, but a few years prior to the end of the 12th dynasty. This marks the end of a mighty middle kingdom. The relationship between the Hyksos, all Semites, and the Israelites may have been amicable, and the Hyksos might as well be the enemies of the Egyptians feared in 110. It makes good sense to see the new king who did not know Joseph as either the founder, Ramesses, or an earlier king of the powerful dynasty like Thutmose I. Joseph, under the new leadership, drove out the Hyksos and reestablished Egyptian sovereignty. The new rule certainly would be concerned with increasing Semite population. So there's a couple of possibilities, who it is, what it might be, all of those things. But what I was saying also is it's intentionally left out. We're not supposed to know. This Pharaoh's name is intentionally not put in the Bible. He is kept from being in the Bible for that reason, that we're not supposed to know him. He has been erased from history, so we don't even get his name. Or the Pharaoh that comes later. Like, they are being erased. Iceman, welcome in. Yeah. Good to have some people in here. First timers. Appreciate you. Are returning and haven't been around for a while. That's also nice. You have a pair of theories of why Israel didn't leave? Well, share them. Share them. This is the time to share those. I don't know that I've heard any really good theories that explain it. They just jump to the next thing of what's happening. Okay. So there is fear over them. They are multiplying. They're becoming stronger. If there's the possibility of more Semites coming in, you could see them leaving and joining with the other side, potentially. So there's that fear. So if war breaks out, they might join our enemies and be on the other side. So they put a foreman over Israelite to oppress them with hard labor. They put princes of work. The word princes has been translated as ruler, prince, leader, official, chief, commander, or captain, and is in different contexts. It appears again later. Okay, the entire phrase foreman, which combines the oversight of labor, taskmaster, slave master. Yeah, and it also does appear that there is a potential of you put some rules on, they're not totally oppressive, you add more rules, they keep getting more oppressive, which often is how you do it. You have certain limitations on we're going to restrict your movement, then we're going to start taking some rights away, and then we're going to take all of them away. So, Uncle Teddy, welcome in. So, now it says, as a result, they built the Pithom and Ramesses. Many scholars assume that because the city was named Ramesses, that Pharaoh had to be Ramses II. I don't. It could have been later called Ramses because it was renamed. It could have been, and also, if they're building cities of Ramses, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the Pharaoh of the Exodus. And hence the late date of the Exodus and the late time of the sojourn in Egypt is proved. But if the details the context are taken as seriously as mentioned of the name, this cannot be the case. If one grants the sake for discussion that Ramses II was on the throne and oppressed Israel, it is necessary to note that Moses is not born yet. It would take about 20 or more years to build the city, then 80 more years before Moses appears before Pharaoh, if it's Ramses, and then a couple of years of plagues. This man would have been Pharaoh for over 100 years. So you have problems if you're trying to make it Ramses not to fit context. And I'm not going to read all of that because, frankly, he's left out of here intentionally. So us trying to figure it out is a moot point. So, Papsio, welcome in. Iceman, spiritual. God didn't want them to leave. Fair. historical. When the Jews take over a nation, they do so at the highest level and do not leave. Some people have serious prejudice against them because they see Jews as using the nation for their own benefit without giving back. Now, you won't get overly political, but this opinion has been voiced. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So when you have Joseph at the highest levels in government, you have that level. But we did have that would have been over Pharaoh's flocks and herds, but you don't really see anything talking about them at higher levels of continuous role in the country. You just have them over being shepherd and herdsmen. So I don't know. That's interesting. Whoa, what is that? What do I need that for? Wow. Hit the wrong button there. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate the thoughts. All right, let's keep going. So now they have their lives are becoming bitter. They're doing work. They're being forced labor at some type. Now it says service with brick and mortar, service of all kinds in the fields. So they are working in places like that the Egyptians did not want to do. So they get the jobs that the Egyptians don't want to do in some ways. Now some think that that means building the pyramids, which doesn't make sense. And we've studied the pyramids being built and the population there. There would have been some honor and prestige in being able to build the pyramids, it seems like. And this also says they're building with brick and mortar. The pyramids aren't built with brick and mortar. They are doing city construction on a different level. So there's that piece of things. Now, the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives. So this is an interesting section here. The word for midwife is simply the PL participle yalad, to give birth. So those who are there when they give birth. So these were women who assist in the childbirth process. It seems probable that given the number of Israelites in the passage, these two women could not have been the only Hebrew midwives, but they may have been over the midwives. So we have the Hebrew midwives are showing up. Oh, the name of the first, Shiphrah. The name of the second, Puah. So there's no verb. It's just understood. Okay. So Blue Letter Bible. Blue Letter Bible. Blue Letter Bible. Da, 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 da. I don't know. Then I got the song or the tune in my head. And we got Exodus Uno. And where is the number of the midwives? Okay, where are we at? Verse 15. There we go. Okay. The name of the other. So let's get their name. Shiphrah. Right, so we have Shiphrah, fair. And Puah is splendid. So we have two midwives. One is fair and the other is splendid. I mean, is this their reputation of their job as a midwife, or is this their reputation because of how they treated them with not killing the babies even when ordered to do so? I think it could go either way on all of that. Pentatrigon, welcome in. Glad to have you here, friend. Glad to have you here. So we have two, and really the thought of them is that they might be like in charge of, they're the over the distribution of, or the work of, or overseeing all of the midwives who are actually doing things. But it could just be they themselves are the midwives and they're the ones doing it directly. But they're ordered to, if it's a son, kill him. If it's a daughter, they may live. Oh yeah, healthcare directors. There we go. That's a good way to say it. Belliser or Belser. Yeah. Sacrifice Moloch to our babies instead. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, there is those kinds of aspects, but this is not a worshipful thing in here. This is simply more of a paranoia and genocide that's going on here. But it's not logical. It's not logical from one standpoint. If you want to have less Hebrew babies born, kill the women, because if you have 10 women and 1 man, you could have 10 pregnant women. Not saying you should, just saying if you're trying to breed a population, you could, no matter what it is, animals, people, whatever. If you have 1 woman and 10 men, you can only have 1 pregnancy. So if Pharaoh is trying to eliminate pregnancy and babies and population growth, he is doing the exact opposite by having women still be allowed. Go look at China's one-child policy. That is causing a problem that is working its way through the generations there, where if you only have one child and you keep just a male and now there are no females, you're going to have a population in decline. So he did the exact wrong thing if he really wanted to reduce it. But, you know, he's thinking the men are going to grow up, be strong, be a threat, be in the army. The women are not. So I get what he's thinking, but I'm just saying he did it the wrong way. Yeah, but we just let God smite him. Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. So they are not going to cooperate with this. But also look what they say. Or what do you say? He says to them, this is what they're doing, so... But the Hebrew midwives feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. So, not exactly sure if these women are Hebrew or not Hebrew. It doesn't necessarily have to be that they are Hebrew. They could have been the Egyptian overseers of all of the midwives who were Hebrew. But regardless of that, they do not do this. And now some people will talk about, the Bible says, you know, do not bear false witness against your neighbor, so that means no lying. Whoa, the bearing false witness against your neighbor is one that you are taking advantage of your neighbor. Here, their deceit is not taking advantage of their neighbor. Their deceit is for the benefit of their neighbor, which is different. What we have at times throughout the Bible is people that do perpetrate deceit. And deceit meaning they're not straightforward, they're not forthcoming, or they outright lie in regards to what's happening. Don't care how it's happening, I'm just calling it deceit. So they are going to deceive Pharaoh, but they're going to be blessed by it because their deceit is not for their own benefit. Their deceit is for the benefit of others. The midwives say, or he says, why do you have that? And he says, because the Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women, for the Hebrew women are vigorous and they give birth before the midwives get to them. So the reason that the boys are not killed is because their babies are already born when we get there. So let me see if there's anything on the footnote here. Before the midwife comes, they give birth, the perfect tense. Okay. The point of the brief section is the midwives respected God above the king. They simply followed the higher authority. Yeah, we got that. Okay. Zacatec, men are starting to go feral in China from the low woman population. I know there's struggles. I don't know. I've heard of that term, but yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And so then, because they do this and fear God, he made households for them. So he blesses them. They have households of their own. So Pharaoh then changes a command. All sons that are born must be thrown in the Nile River, but the daughters you may let live. So he's going to put this on the entire nation to carry out it. The midwives won't do it. We're going to have the whole nation carry it out. So the Hebrew midwives end up with families of their own. As we get to the Exodus, or when they actually leave, I think there is some mention in regards to them. I don't remember if it's in Exodus or it's in one of the other Numbers, Deuteronomy, that speak of them later on. So here we're introduced to two women who are defiant of the king, will not do what Pharaoh says, and so instead he orders the entire nation to participate in this. So we have a collective sin of the leader who is perpetrating in behalf of the people and also their God, because he represents their God. So it's a spiritual attack as well, ongoing. And we have the now participation is ordered of all the people to participate in this. So whether they fully are or not, we will see what's happening, but the order has been given, and if it's being carried out, it is guilt of the whole people by the participation of it. So guilt by being part of it. I mean, yes, there could be a remnant that's resistant, and yes, there's a remnant of Egyptians who go out of Egypt at the end, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, okay,